Hey Portland, Claudia Meza here. At the end of today's episode, we got a sponsored interview with TaskRabbit. Hannah Vassar, Senior Manager of Engineering, is going to talk to me about the best ways to get your home ready for spring and how Portlanders are turning their skills into real income right now in their own neighborhoods. Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about Oregon's second attempt at universal healthcare, what it could take to save the park system, and how Portlanders are feeling about the economy, particularly their own finances. Joining me on the show are Oregonian technology and economy reporter Mike Rogoway and Stumptown Savings founder Brian M. Vance, who is not a banker. Thanks for being here, you two.
Hi there. Good to be back.
The reason I always say not a banker after Brian's name is because Stumptown Savings, his publication, which has nothing to do with banking, really fools our listeners. And they're always just like, why is this banker on? And why is he talking about it?
I'm a banker who's really clued into local news, apparently.
I know. No diss to bankers, but it is a little odd that we would just have a banker on. All right. Before we jump in, I usually ask an opening question so our listeners can get to know our guests a little better. And today's is based on an interview the Willamette Week did with Chun-Hui Chi, a veteran scholar of healthcare system finance. Chun-Hui had a big role in designing Taiwan's universal healthcare system back in the 90s. And since then, he's become a big advocate for state-run healthcare here in the States, and he's long watched Oregon flirt with the idea. If you weren't aware, this was news to me, you guys. Back in 2002, Oregon voters overwhelmingly rejected a ballot measure to establish a single-payer healthcare system, which is kind of like a form of achieving universal healthcare without actually saying universal healthcare. And this year, Chun-Hui and others are racing to make the September 15th deadline to put universal healthcare once again on the ballot for Oregonians to vote on. And this has been years in the making, something that the Universal Health Plan Governance Board has been researching and working on. And if you're on TikTok as much as I am, I'm sure you've seen their videos because they start them off real like, hey guys, Oregon passed universal healthcare. And you're like, what? And they're like, that could be a reality. You're just like, God damn you, stop toying with me.
Bait and switch.
And if for some reason you are against universal healthcare, something most developed countries already provide their citizens, something does need to happen because Oregon's healthcare is imploding. Just last week, the Oregonian reported that Providence forced hundreds of thousands in our state to switch coverage because it stopped taking most health insurance plans, which is insanely dangerous and disruptive for anyone undergoing serious care. That all being said, universal healthcare, as you can imagine, folks, is facing an uphill battle. Some say a 0% chance in passing because it would involve enacting a new progressive household health income tax on both citizens and their employers. And Oregonians, especially Portlanders, seem to have hit their limit with getting taxed or levied. So many are considering this a pipe dream, though I gotta say, as a known hater of new taxes and how much we're currently getting taxed, universal healthcare is exactly the kind of program where I would want my taxes to go to and would be open for a new tax if it actually accomplished universal healthcare in an effective manner. But neither here nor there. My question to you both is, what is your Portland pipe dream? Mine would definitely be universal healthcare. And also, do you think this proposed bill has a chance of passing in our state if it made it to ballot?
Yeah, I mean, universal healthcare would be a dream. And for people who aren't for it, I just want to explain, like, we spend way more on healthcare in this country than just about any other developed nation in the world. So the private industry, private markets have not figured out healthcare. I'm not saying that, government funded healthcare is a magic bullet, but it has a much better track record than private funded healthcare. So this is maybe an area where the market doesn't know best. But for me, it would honestly be like free transit throughout the entire Portland metro area, like free, reliable transit. Like if TriMet were able to fund itself in a way where they don't have to charge fares and they don't have to increase fares and they don't have to cut bus lines and max lines and whatnot. And also that would include a max line to Lake Oswego so that I could go dip my toes into that lake that they don't want me in.
Oh, so free transit. And do you think this has a chance of passing?
I totally hear everything that you're saying, but I do think like a lot of things have changed in our country over the past, 24 years. Mm-hmm. And I think there is more appetite now for drastically shaking up the healthcare industry in our country than probably at any point in my lifetime.
Right.
So I think it stands a decent chance. This does seem like it's kind of cutting it close, though, if they're not even qualified for the ballot yet and they're racing to get it on.
And I got to be a little bit more clear on that. They're basically sending it to the legislature, so the legislature themselves could just pass it. But they're assuming if it gets to them, they're able to tweak it and whatever, that they're just going to send it back to voters. So that's the full explanation. I was just oversimplifying there.
Yeah, no worries.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, well, so my pipe dream, I'll go with transportation too. Like Brian, I've always hoped that someday, somehow, we might bury the freeway on the east bank of the Willamette and tear down the Markham Bridge and put that underwater. I mean, it's the most unsightly part of the regional transportation system, the bridge and the freeway there. And if you could open up the waterfront on that side of the river, boy, it'd be fantastic. I guess the cost would be somewhere around $500 or $600 billion. We don't seem to, after 20 or 30 years of trying, we don't seem to be able to build a badly needed bridge back across I-5. We can't agree on the size or shape or scope of it. So, and it just gets more and more expensive. So.
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy pipe dream, I got to say, Mike, is that you're like, I hate that bridge. I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
There's a better option out there.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic if we could do that, but it's not ever happening. This is a definition of a pipe dream there.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about Oregon's chance of passing universal health care?
Zero. No chance at all for the foreseeable future. I think we've seen, the state is struggling to fund basic transportation and blocking and tackling. I think there is no sentiment in voters statewide in taking on a major new public project like that. And even Portland, which usually is warm to that kind of thing, has cooled off considerably, given the difficulty that local governments have had in executing all kinds of projects. So no, this isn't happening anytime in the foreseeable future. That's not saying the current system is working well. It's clearly not. But I don't think there's any appetite to have the government swing and miss too.
Well, we got a yes from Brian, a no from the economic reporter. I don't know who to believe, but let's take a quick break here. And when we return, Mike has given us a temp check on how Portlanders are feeling about the economy via a new poll. Got leftover paint, stain, or varnish taking up space in your basement or garage? You're not alone. Many of us finish a project and end up with half-used cans we're just not sure what to do with. Don't let them sit there collecting dust, taking up space. Recycle them with Paint Care. Whether it's cans from a recent renovation or years of storage, Paint Care helps ensure your paint is managed responsibly and kept out of landfills. Drop off your cans for free at one of more than 175 conveniently located drop-off sites across Oregon. To find a drop-off site near you, visit paintcare.org. That's paintcare.org.
Bikes with Mikes.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Bikes with Mikes. Mike, we got a listener question. When I'm driving, how much space should I give a person on a bicycle when passing?
Well, Mike, that's a good question. When you see a rider, slow down and give them plenty of space.
Yeah, it's called fall distance. Picture their total height, bike and all, and give at least that much space in case they were to fall.
Totally, Mike, and only pass when it's safe. It's not worth risking someone's life for.
Well, that's it for today. Remember, life is better when we roll together.
A message from 2 Mikes and ODOT.
So, Mike, the Oregonian loves paying for polls. What is this one all about? Is this the same one that's been circling, or is this like one specific to just finances?
We typically do it a couple times a year. We work with DHM, and we do them sort of around the election cycles. And we ask about issues that are on the ballot or candidates that are on the ballot or public office holders. And then we ask about topical things. And so this covered a broad range of things. But one of the things we asked is, how do people feel about their own finances? And what struck me about this is in the poll, people in the Portland area feel very down about many things. Most say the community's on the wrong track, very negative perceptions of public officials. 62% have a negative view of the city council. Governor Kotek, it's not much higher. People have lots of worries about homelessness, how the government is running, housing, taxes. But 71% say they feel pretty good about their own finances. So there's sort of an inherent contradiction there that people say, oh, things are going terribly, they're bad. Except for me, I'm doing all right. And I think this is not that unusual with polls that, the folks at DHM will tell you this, that, politics and broader perceptions color what people have to say about public policy issues, about their leaders and things like that. And there's a lot of polarization right now. But it's useful to ask, how are you doing? Mm-hmm. And I think that paints a somewhat rosier picture right now. And what's remarkable to me, we've been asking this question for the past few years, there's really been almost no movement. Other issues go up or down, depending on what else is happening in the community. This hasn't budged.
To a point that you said, Mike, it's almost a bit contradictory, though, because then you ask them questions that relate to financial stability and financial health, and they have negative outputs. Like you ask about how are you dealing with the rising cost of food? It doesn't matter if you're making the highest salary you've ever made. If everything else is exponentially more expensive, you can't save as much as you used to save. You can't put as much into retirement as you used to put. You can't buy as much as the grocery store as you used to. And it's just funny because I've run into this myself. Like my whole publication is about helping people deal with rising costs in Portland. And you'll hear people say like, oh yeah, I'm doing okay, but I'm really stressed about X, X, and X. And it's like, okay, but if you actually add that together, doesn't that mean that you're not necessarily doing as well as you might think? And I would say unemployment is still way higher in Oregon than at the national level. Wage increases have not kept up with inflation over the past few years. It's just like, it's this weird thing where I think some people maybe have their head in the sand on personal finance issues. Also, we tend to not take personal finance as serious in this country as we do, or as people do in other parts of the world. So I also wonder what their definition of like feeling comfortable about their personal finances is.
Well, you're absolutely right. But I think some of it, again, is policy versus personal. And people have a lot of concern about the policies that are being enacted, but aren't feeling the impact just yet. Now, the state economists did their quarterly forecast this last week, and they said that they've revised their Oregon forecast down in part because they see drags on the economy coming because of higher prices. Mm-hmm. So I think that some of the pinch, say, people may not be feeling it yet, but it's coming and they are worried about it.
The only question I wrote for your article, Mike, was, could they be lying? LOL. And I actually did write LOL.
Usually when people talk to pollsters, this is their opportunity to vent. They're usually not like, oh, things are a lot better than they really are. I know you think I'm struggling, but I'm really doing all right. No, I tend to believe them that people feel they're doing all right. But it is an inherent contradiction. How is it that you feel you're doing okay, but you're still worried about these things?
Right.
I wonder if that has anything to do with just like the delusion of being an American. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a bit of delusion that we think we're okay if, we have a car, if we have the most basic of necessities down. Oh, I can afford to eat out. I can do this.
Yeah.
But we don't see the forest from the trees, if that makes sense, when it comes to personal finances, because most of us don't know how personal finances work.
Exactly. And that was sort of what I was hinting at, is like, do people actually have a safety
net?
No,
exactly.
Do they have 6 months of their income saved? I highly doubt most of these people do. That's really hard to do when you're spending 30 to 40% of your monthly take-home pay just on housing. And then, food prices are increasing, utility prices are increasing. So it's like, are we just a little bit delusional in this country that like our sense of doing well financially is just different?
It's living paycheck to paycheck. Quite frankly.
Yeah.
Basically saying, I can meet all of my bills, all whatever, next month or this month, I'm good. And it's like, no, you're actually not good. Because if you lost that job, you're literally 3 steps away from being homeless. And like, that is the delusion that I feel like a lot of Americans have, because we have that individuality, which goes back to universal healthcare, where I'm just like, we just can't even think that big. We think so small. And then when bigger issues come out, we're just like, why can't we figure this out? And it's like, because our brains don't work that way. Not to say that it can't or it won't or whatever, but like sometimes I just worry that like we're just fucked because we're Americans.
Well, one thing I want to point out, and Brian's right, unemployment is higher in Oregon than it is in the rest of the country. And Lord knows Portland is facing a lot of economic headwinds. That said, unemployment is below where it's 25-year average right now. I mean, and it's doesn't seem to be getting worse. It's sort of been about the same place for the last 8 months. Incomes on many things are not keeping up with inflation, but on housing, they are. Housing costs have been sort of flat in Portland for several years now, while incomes have kept rising. And so people may feel more stable in some ways. Certainly a lot better than past recessions like the Great Recession, which went on for years and years. Things were sort of rough from 2007 to maybe 2013, 2014. So if you compare it to the past, people might be feeling better now, relatively speaking. It doesn't mean that they're doing great, but they may be comfortable.
For now. That's what I'm saying.
now.
I'm like, yeah, they're comfortable for now.
Just wait 6 months.
I know. Let's take a quick break here. And when we return, Brian's talking about how the city is looking to private orgs to save Portland parks. So, Brian, when are we getting a Burgerville Park?
It's funny. I had a similar idea when I was reading this. I was like, when are we going to get some really weird things going on? So my story today is based off some reporting by Alex Zelinsky at OPB. She did a really fantastic look into this sort of novel idea of partnering with private organizations, whether they be businesses or nonprofit organizations and such not, to prop up parts of Portland's parks infrastructure. So it's no secret our park system is in rough shape. We are facing an ever-growing maintenance backlog while also seeing just revenue that, funds all that kind of work decrease. That's despite us just, passing yet another tax levy to help prop up the Parks Department. And still, in this current proposed budget, the Parks Department is facing a cut of nearly $3 million, the elimination of nearly 50 jobs. Community centers will either shutter outright or see vastly reduced hours. And the really fascinating, sort of scary data point about our park system is 90% of parks facilities in Portland are rated at poor condition. We have a serious maintenance backlog. This isn't just unique to parks. We also see something similar with our roads, but with parks, it's a thing we all use, we all love. It's a thing that unites Portlanders no matter which part of the city you live in, but they're in rough shape. And the city is considering some unique ways of sort of filling these holes. So this is a thing that has actually happened in cities across the country for a while. Fun fact, Central Park is actually it is a city park, but it is managed privately. So a private organization actually oversees Central Park for the city of New York. In Portland, we have done similar things. So in 2002, Nike paid to resurface all of the city's basketball courts. In 2018, they did it again, but just for 30 basketball courts. This company called Kemper Sports actually runs 4 of the city's 5 public golf courses. So that's a private sports management company running public golf courses. And since 2019, a nonprofit based in Sellwood has run the Sellwood Community House. So we do have examples of this. And what the city is doing right now is they are basically creating infrastructure within the Parks and Rec department to explore more of these opportunities, to explore more chances of partnering with private organizations. So one thing that they're looking at is the Portland Tennis Center in Northeast Portland. They've been in talks with the U.S. Tennis Association of potentially leasing that facility, which is in really rough shape, and taking over the management of it. There are talks of getting, various nonprofit groups to reopen closed community centers or closed, venues inside parks across the city. It's something that a lot of people are interested in, but there's also concerns about it. So it's definitely not a magic bullet. Technically, the Leach Botanical Garden is a Portland Parks and Rec property run by a private nonprofit group.
Friends of the Leach Garden, right?
Yeah. And here's the thing about this. They relied heavily on funding from the city, and that's been cut. And now they are facing the serious probability of having to close that facility in the coming years. And there's also concerns that if you look at how this happens in cities across the country, businesses in particular, when they team up with cities for park facilities, tend to do it in wealthier neighborhoods. And so some concern, by Commissioner Candace Avalos and others has been that this might actually exacerbate the lack of infrastructure investment in areas like East Portland and, parts of Southwest Portland where the city historically hasn't done the best job of building parks and maintaining parks, that if you leave it to businesses, they're going to go to the places that, are more attractive to them. I'm curious, what are y'all's thoughts? And yeah, if you could, I guess, dream up a pipe dream for a random park facility. I think Claudia wants a Burgerville at Cathedral
That's
Park.
not what I want. That's not what I want. I was being
but
cheeky.
I am curious.
Well, I just want to follow logically the argument that this would only help wealthier neighborhoods, because let's say that outside orgs, for some reason, that is exactly what they do. Even though we have discussed other ways that that's already kind of happening and that's not what happened. But let's say, okay, sure, they just go to Northwest, they just do the West Hills, I don't know. They're like, screw Cully, whatever. Wouldn't that mean that those parks are no longer being fully funded by the city, that the city would then have more money to fully fund parks in regions that would need it? No matter what, it's helping. You know what I'm saying?
Theoretically,
because they're not saying, hey, the entire park system is going to be managed by outside org. They're just saying some help needed. So no matter what, some help needed would be help. And it would make it so other parks would have more funding. The other thing I wanted to say is I actually just think that we have way too much programming in our parks. And I feel like year after year, they keep adding more and more programming rather than just focusing on the basics of being the Parks and Rec, which is taking care of the parks. And I'm not saying cut the programming. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying maybe we pause on creating new programming at the freaking Parks and Rec, or looking at the programming we have now and going, okay, what is not being used? I think that a history of just having so much programming and not caring about the unsexy part of the Parks and Rec, which is taking care of the parks, doing the maintenance, is what got us here and made it so top heavy and so program heavy. And now our communities are dependent on some of these programs because it's been around for so long,
I can't really speak to the programming, except as an occasional customer of kids' swim lessons. But, people have been writing this for a long time with the parks, and pretty much every other aspect of city government is that our eyes are too big for our stomachs. We we want more parks. We build new facilities and we never budget to take care of them. But it's a difficult thing. You say, okay, well, we're going to have to close some park, or we're not going to build it in communities that don't have them. That's a tough decision to make. But you do end up in this jam at the end and say, okay, well, what are our options and what is the least bad thing we can do at this point? And so, not having planned for this eventuality, this is what we as a community are dealing with.
Absolutely. And I'll say the reason the city seems so interested in this, Commissioner Dan Ryan flat out said it, is he is not interested in going to the community and asking them for yet another tax increase for the Parks Department.
We already
it's
passed
just
one.
Not something. Yeah, exactly. We just did it, and we were saying that wasn't even enough. It wasn't even close to enough. And so I think you both hit on something that is an issue, not just with parks, but with frankly everything that our city and county government has done in the 11 years I've lived here. We do things with great intentions, but we never bake into the initial plans or the initial legislation that allows something to happen that we have to eventually pay to operate something and run it continuously. And I really wish that we would have a policy change at both the state and local level that says you can't do stuff like that. That you have to actually have plans in place for how you will fund this ongoing, because the big backlog that Portland Parks and Rec faces is actually around maintenance. I mean, it's almost $800 million. And to Claudia's point, yes, theoretically, if they were to take that Northwest Tennis Center that I was talking about, I think there's close to $1 million in maintenance that needs to be done there. The idea is they would lease it to the U.S. Tennis Association for $1. So they're not making a ton of money off this. But the U.S. Tennis Association is then on the hook for maintaining that building and doing the upgrades. That's money that the city now doesn't have to spend on that theoretically they could put into other areas. The challenge is that's still not actually bringing in more money, though. So it could cut some stuff, but they actually have to look at ways to bring in revenue, too. The average Portlander spends, or the city, I guess, spends about $322 per the average Portlander on our park system. That's the 6th highest rate in this country. And yet we are still running into this issue where we can't pay for stuff, can't even come close to paying for stuff.
One, to me, that reeks of mismanagement, but also we do have an extensive park system. It's
huge.
We have more parks than most cities. It's what makes Portland awesome. It's something that we're all proud of. That's why the levy passes and stuff, is because we want to support it. We want to make sure that our parks are great and then they're available for everyone. But I do agree with Mike, and what you're saying is our eyes got too big or whatever for, what is it, our plate, our eyes.
Eyes are bigger than our stomach.
There we go. And the fact that it's Dan Ryan saying this, listen.
Yeah.
I don't agree with Dan Ryan on a ton of things. I would say most things. But that man was the commissioner for Parks and Rec. If that dude is like, listen, they're fucked, I would listen to him. I would be like, he might know that it's an emergency pull cord time of let's just try to find someone to maintain. Once we can maintain, let's talk about creative ways of making revenue. But right now we need to maintain. And I think that that's where we're at.
There's one other critique that people have said, which to me seems like an easily solvable thing, which is that the parks offers a lot of discounted rates to people who have financial needs. So they, reduce fares to enter ticketed park venues, or they provide free services and whatnot. Technically, right now, the agreements they have with other vendors around the city that operate, park facilities doesn't guarantee that they'll honor those things. That to me seems like something you could solve at the contracting state. Like just put it in writing that that's the expectation, that they will continue to honor those services or come up with their own version of those. That's something that we can kind of predict and plan for. So that one I'm less concerned about if we're at least going into the negotiations understanding that that's something that we need to achieve.
Assuming it's still attractive to the private entities that you're partnering with at whatever terms you set. And it's always a Faustian bargain.
Yeah.
Stop talking economics, Mike.
Big words hurt my head.
I know. That's so funny. You're just like, that's my whole beat.
I guess the thing for me is like, this is something that I feel like people have a bit of say here. And I would say if you have ideas, if you have thoughts, like now is probably the time to share them with the city council and with Parks and Rec, because they are hurting for solutions. So if you have a wild idea, like if you really do see there a way to put a Burgerville food cart at Cathedral Park.
For fuck's sake, I don't want a
For
Burgerville
Claudia.
Park. Oh my! I can just imagine the poll quote. Claudia says, "Burgerville Park for everyone."
Burgerville at Forest Park, right in the middle of Forest Park. Claudia wants a Burgerville drive-thru.
Okay, but like, I would definitely love a little burger stand at. Okay, now, but see, now you're making this attractive for me.
No. There are food carts coming to certain parks. Like that is something the city's doing.
A little food cart, Forest Park. Oh, I could get behind that.
Get Leica on board. That their whole movie is based on Forest Park, the Wildwood movie. See what the Knights have to offer.
Oh yeah, I hear they have quite a bit of money.
They have $1 or $2. Well, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thanks for talking through some of these stories, some of these ideas. Y'all, this is just a conversation. You're part of it. You're listening to us. If you have anything to say about this, hit us up at portland@citycast.fm. And also let our council know. They're at a point where they're looking for ideas too. So hit them up. This is our city. If you're not happy with how things are going, you have a say. Also, please save 6 months of your income.
Try.
Just try.
Start with 3
Just
months.
try.
Start with 3 months.
No DoorDash for the month, and just save that. I'm talking to myself now. But yeah. Well, thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate you. Always a pleasure to have you both on.
Likewise, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Hey, don't go anywhere. Coming up, we have a sponsored segment from TaskRabbit. I'm chatting with Hannah Vassar, Senior Manager of Engineering, to talk about how the platform is making life easier for Portlanders and also creating real earning opportunities for local workers. Hey, Claudia here with Hannah Vassar, Senior Manager of Engineering at TaskRabbit. Hannah, welcome to CityCast Portland. How's it going?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm super happy to be here.
Nice. Well, TaskRabbit, I'm familiar with it. You can find and pay a neighbor to come help out with a household task, or you could sign up to be that handy neighbor. I'm curious, what are the most popular tasks people are getting hired to complete in Portland?
I would say probably furniture assembly and TV mounting. Those are probably our biggest, especially with so many people moving into new spaces lately. But we also handle cleaning, moving help, general home repairs. The goal is really just focused towards ease and quality. You browse local profiles, you see the real reviews from other Portlanders, and you pick up a person that fits your budget and your schedule.
Gotcha. So TaskRabbit has been in Portland for a while now. And Hannah, you're originally from Portland. How have you seen the platform grow in our town?
It's been incredible, honestly. I wish that it was available when I was in college. We've actually helped Portlanders complete more than 64,000 tasks in the last few years. We grew from that simple idea 16 years ago when our founder just needed dog food on a snowy night. And now we're the #1 platform for home services.
So lately there's been a lot of debate in town about whether rideshare drivers are making a fair wage. You might have heard our city is actually looking into an ordinance that increases their share of the payment received. So how does TaskRabbit work with their contractors, or what you call them, taskers?
Supporting taskers is a huge part of our mission. We aren't just a service. We are an engine for micro entrepreneurs. On average, taskers in the Portland area earn $45 per hour. It's a fantastic way to build a business or make some of that extra money on the side. Taskers are their own bosses. They set their own rates, schedules, and work areas. And most importantly, they take home 100% of their hourly rate and 100% of their tips.
Gotcha. So if someone is looking to sign up as a tasker today, like what should they know going in?
If you're over 18 and have a skill, whether it's painting, mounting, or just being handy, then we want to hear from you. We handle all of the back-end logistics so you can focus on the work. We also take safety seriously. So every tasker goes through a multi-step vetting process, including identity verification and background checks.
Okay, so they got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
I know I am excited for like spring cleaning. No more rainy weather. That's always exciting. But like I'm actually looking forward to cleaning out my basement. Oh my God, this is so sad. Like this isn't scripted, you guys. This is fact. So what are some household tasks people should be thinking about as we're getting ready for spring that you think you're like, hey, this app is perfect for this?
Yeah, that is a great question. But I also share the sentiment around being excited for spring and spring cleaning and getting organized. And it feels so good going into the summer that you know you have everything prepped. Being from here, I know that the Portland winters are real. And I know that Portland dampness can be tough on a home. Right now is the perfect time for some of that pre-spring maintenance. We're seeing a lot of residents booking taskers to help with things like indoor organization, clearing out the gutters to keep that unfortunate rain flowing, or even checking for drafty windows. And then don't forget, with that weather starting to shift, it's also a great time to beat the spring rush for things like mounting those new TVs for sports season or getting a head start on that deep cleaning. Whatever the task, you've got a neighbor ready to help.
I'm liking this. I just bought like this. I'm like, listen, Hannah, I just purchased this
Let me tell you.
I purchased on Facebook Marketplace, like a really good deal on this like Smoky Mountain. Any kind of barbecue nerd right now is like ding, ding, ding. But it was like all of the hardware was rusted through and I have no idea how to take it out. And I've like tried my best. And I'm like, somebody out there must know. Could I just like, go on the app and just like, is that something I'm able to like throw out there?
Guaranteed. Yes, guaranteed. Guaranteed there's a tasker for that.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for being here. If you're in Portland and need a hand around the house or you want to start earning as a tasker, head over to taskrabbit.com. We'll have that link in our show notes. Again, that's taskrabbit.com. Thank you so much for listening. And Hannah, thanks for coming on and telling us a little bit more about the app.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend, rate it, leave us a good review. Don't leave us a bad one. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Portland neighbor. Just visit membership.citycast.fm. You'll get ad-free listening, invites to member-only events. It's a pretty cool club. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.
Or Burgerville Park.
God, we're not going to... I can't believe you're just waiting.
I couldn't do it.